It is the summer of 1970, and the great railway stations of Americas still echo with the sound of long-distance passenger trains preparing to depart. Under the towering iron roof of the station, a long silver train waits beside the platform. Its diesel locomotive hums with quiet power while porters wheel luggage carts through the crowd. Families stand close together saying their goodbyes. A conductor in a dark uniform checks his watch as the departure time approaches. You stand among the travelers holding a small cardboard ticket. In a few minutes, that ticket will carry you across rivers, mountains, farms, and entire states. This was what it felt like to travel by train in 1970, when America's railroads still carried passengers across the country on journeys that lasted hours or even days. Down the platform, the conductor raises his voice, "All aboard!" Passengers begin climbing the steps into the train. For many of them, the adventure is just beginning. But the story of a train journey in 1970 begins long before the locomotive ever leaves the station. It begins in the railroad terminal. In cities across America, railway stations were still major transportation hubs. Though airplanes were beginning to dominate long-distance travel, trains remained one of the most comfortable ways to cross the country. Stations were busy places from early morning until late at night. Taxis arrived constantly at the curb outside, dropping off passengers carrying suitcases and travel bags. Inside the building, the waiting room buzzed with quiet anticipation. Travelers studied large departure boards showing trains bound for cities across the country: Chicago, Denver, San Francisco, New Orleans, Los Angeles. Each train represented a long journey that could take a full day or even several nights. Before boarding, every traveler stopped at the ticket counter. Behind the glass window, a clerk printed paper tickets for each passenger. These tickets listed the destination, the train number, and sometimes even the specific car or sleeping compartment reserved for the journey. Those simple cardboard tickets were the keys to an enormous transportation system that stretched across thousands of miles of steel rails. In 1970, passenger trains were still operated by private railroad companies. Famous railroads like the Santa Fe Railway, Union Pacific, Southern Pacific, and Burlington Northern ran many of the country's best-known passenger services. Trains such as the Super Chief, the California Zephyr, the Empire Builder, and the City of New Orleans carried travelers across mountains, deserts, and vast plains. Have you ever wondered what it must have felt like to ride one of those legendary trains before the modern era of air travel? To understand that experience, you have to step out onto the platform. There, waiting beside the track, stands the train itself. At the front is the locomotive. By 1970, most American passenger trains were powered by diesel-electric locomotives, powerful machines built by companies like General Motors' Electromotive Division and General Electric. Many famous trains were pulled by locomotives such as the sleek EMD E-Series, designed specifically for fast passenger service. With their rounded noses and streamlined bodies, these engines became icons of mid-century rail travel. Other trains used rugged EMD-F units, or newer GE locomotives, all capable of pulling long passenger trains across hundreds of miles of track. Inside the locomotive CIB sits the engineer. He studies the gauges and signals ahead while his assistant monitors the powerful diesel engines beneath the floor. Together, they control the throttle, brakes, and electrical systems that move the train across the rails. But the locomotive is only the beginning of the world waiting behind it. Stretching along the platform are the passenger rail cars. The first car is often the baggage car, where railroad workers load trunks and large suitcases before departure. Beside it may be the railway mail car, where postal clerks sort letters and packages while the train travels between cities. Mail service was once one of the most important reasons passenger trains existed. Behind these service cars come the passenger coaches. Inside a coach car, rows of wide reclining seats fill the interior. Large windows line both sides of the car, giving travelers a clear view of the countryside as it passes by. Overhead racks hold smaller bags and coats. Coach travel was comfortable and affordable, making it the most common way to ride. But passengers taking longer journeys had another option: sleeping cars. These rail cars were operated by the famous Pullman Company, whose sleeping accommodations had been a symbol of luxury train travel for decades. Inside a sleeping car were small private rooms called roomettes and larger bedrooms. During the day, these compartments contained comfortable chairs and small folding tables. At night, the attendant transformed them into beds with fresh sheets, pillows, and blankets. Curtains and sliding doors provided privacy while the train rolled through the night. Some trains also included one of the most beloved features of mid-century rail travel: the Vista Dome car. This special rail car had a raised glass dome above the roof, allowing passengers to sit beneath curved windows that offered panoramic views of the landscape. Riding in a dome car felt almost like floating above the train itself. Passengers could watch mountains and plains stretch out in every direction. At the rear of many trains was the observation lounge, large windows wrapped around the back of the car so travelers could watch the rails disappear into the distance behind them. Comfortable chairs and small tables made the lounge a perfect place for conversation, card games, or simply enjoying the scenery. Some trains even included club cars or cocktail lounges, where passengers could relax with drinks while the countryside drifted past the windows. Have you ever imagined what it would feel like to sit in one of those lounge cars as the train crossed an entire state overnight? Eventually, the conductor calls for departure. The engineer opens the throttle. The locomotive begins to pull. With a deep vibration, the train slowly rolls forward, leaving the station behind as it enters the maze of tracks leading out of the city. Signals mounted beside the rails guide the engineer safely along the route. Green signals mean the track ahead is clear. Yellow signals warn the engineer to reduce speed. Red signals require the train to stop completely. Far away in dispatch offices, railroad controllers monitor the movement of multiple trains, directing them safely across vast regions. Inside the passenger coaches, however, the journey feels calm and relaxed. Passengers settle into their seats while the conductor walks through the aisles collecting tickets. Outside the windows, the buildings of the city slowly give way to farms and open countryside. For many travelers, the most exciting part of the journey is exploring the train itself. One of the first places they visit is the dining car. Inside this elegant rail car, chefs prepare fresh meals while the train speeds across the countryside. Tables are covered with white cloths and polished silverware, while waiters carry trays through the gently swaying car. Passengers order from printed menus while watching rivers and fields slide past outside the windows. A meal in the dining car was often one of the highlights of train travel. Meanwhile, the train continues its journey through ever-changing landscapes. The rails may follow a winding river valley, where the land is flat enough for easy construction. Sometimes the train passes through deep cuts carved into hillsides decades earlier by railroad builders. At other times, it enters tunnels blasted straight through mountains. As afternoon fades into evening, the atmosphere inside the train begins to change. Lights glow softly inside the passenger cars, while the sky outside darkens. The sleeping car attendant moves quietly through the compartments, preparing beds for overnight travelers. Seats fold down into lower berths. Upper beds appear from hidden compartments above. Within minutes, the sleeping car transforms into a moving hotel. Outside the windows, the train continues through forests, towns, and valleys under the night sky. Up in the locomotive cab, the engineer remains alert. The powerful headlight illuminates the rails ahead, while signals flash past in the darkness. Hour after hour, the train presses forward, across bridges, through tunnels, past quiet towns where station lights glow briefly before fading behind the train. Eventually, the darkness begins to fade. Morning arrives. Passengers wake slowly as sunlight fills the windows. Some head to the dining car for breakfast, while others walk to the observation lounge to watch the changing landscape. The train is now hundreds of miles from where it began. Soon, it begins to slow once more. Ahead lies another station, perhaps a small town, perhaps a major city where hundreds of passengers will board. A porter places a step beside the door so travelers can climb down easily. Friends and relatives greet arriving passengers on the platform, and within minutes, the conductor calls once again. All aboard, the locomotive pulls forward. The train continues its long journey across the country. And now you understand what it truly felt like to travel across America by train in 1970. The gentle rocking of the cars, the quiet conversations in the lounge, the endless landscapes rolling past the windows. A time when travel wasn't just about reaching a destination. The journey itself was the experience.